Hi, everybody. Welcome to our weekly version of The Locker Room, our podcast that shines a light on all of the student athletes here in the Bayou region. I'm Stan Gravois. He's Dustin Robichaux. He helps put this thing together. Hope you had a terrific Labor Day holiday yesterday.
Labor Day, I did. It was very busy, though.
So you did labor on Labor Day?
I did labor on Labor Day, yes, sir.
Well, I would add to that by saying I did have to run by Lowe's to pick up a few things, and Lowe's was jam-packed. And I'm thinking this is supposed to be a day everybody sort of takes it easy, right? Labor Day, and didn't seem to be the case yesterday.
No.
Did you get anything accomplished?
Some. I was doing a lot of video editing yesterday.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, going through a lot of footage.
Very good. I would like to say this too, and I'll say it publicly. He does a lot of work for a terrific group at one time, Mute Math in the area, but Paul Meany, who is sort of the head of that group, and I know y'all are friends, and we'll be seeing some stuff pretty soon, huh?
Yes, very soon. Actually, a new song this week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Listen, this is worldwide stuff too, folks. This is not like a local garage band or anything. Paul Meany is a force in the music world. So congratulations on that. And if you have time, go out to a Google search, type in Mute Math, type in Dustin Robichaux, and you'll find some of his work there that he does outside this arena that he works with us. But we certainly are glad to have him here with us. This is the week that it all gets started in the high schools. I know we've been talking about a lot, but it's all been jamborees, right? I mean, that was all. I was just getting ready. That's sort of like playing a preseason. Now it happens for real this upcoming week. There are a lot of football games in the area and a lot of volleyball matches in the area. And we are going to go through all of those with Casey Gisclair. Casey Gisclair of Bayou Sports, the group chat. He's on a lot of platforms out there, is going to be sitting in with us, and he'll talk about what he has seen leading up to this point, week one of high school football, and who and what we might be looking out for this upcoming fall. I think we have some teams in our area that can certainly make a little noise and do some things related to playoffs and going deep in the playoffs, both in volleyball and in football. And we certainly want to shed a light on those particular teams and how they're doing. We have a lot of young teams that last year didn't have the numbers they have this year. I saw that at the jamborees on Friday night. I think we are in a day and age where numbers are getting better. Maybe it was COVID, maybe it was Hurricane Ida, but I think the numbers on the sidelines and kids being involved is getting better and better. So without further ado, we're going to turn it right over to Casey and start talking about what we might expect this upcoming fall. As I mentioned to all of you, Casey Gisclair in with us today. It's been the entire summer where we gave Casey a break. He got to sit back just a little bit. And when I say sit back, I use that very loosely because he was very busy throughout the summer. How are you? It's go time, right?
It is go time, man. I'm doing well. We're excited. We have our first 2025-2026 broadcast of the year today. We're going to volleyball, so can't wait, man. It's going to be great.
Again, thanks for all you do. We want to get the platforms out there real quick where people can follow you. You can go to Facebook, and if you go to Bayou Sports, it's very easy, BY Sports, and you just pretty much tune in to everything that's there. What are the other platforms? And I want to add into that your podcast where you guys do a little bit, because it's all about talking about Bayou region sports, right?
100%. So you can find us on Bayou Sports, as Stan said, on social media, or you can go to our website, by-usports.com. And then also have a podcast started up with my buddies called the Group Chat Podcast. You could visit us there. You could find us on all of our social media platforms there. In fact, after the LSU game on Saturday, we went live right after the game. We were having fun there. So you never know when we'll just pop up. We record every Wednesday, but we also just kind of have time to just pop up. We just show up and we start recording. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. We love it.
Yep, actually not a bad idea, because people are looking to get other points of view on what they just saw. So that's actually something that's very good. Of course, we are in high school football time, and it's busy. This is week one for high school football, although we got a dress rehearsal last week with the jamborees. I only saw you for half a second. I actually had to fill in for somebody who fell ill last week, so didn't get to spend a lot of time with you, but I do know that you were over at Tom B. Smith for the Terrebonne General Jamboree. A good jamboree, but I would say this. there were a lot of key people who didn't play in that jamboree for a lot of teams. You know, when the thing opened up, I'm looking down at E.D. White, and I don't see Carter Douglas at the fullback position. There are a few other kids, Owen Porsche is a defensive back, who didn't play. Then all of a sudden, South Lafourche hits the field, and I don't see Meathead Dordor in the backfield, and I don't see Josh Mack back there. I think we have gotten in a age, and I should add this too, Terrebonne didn't play Alvin Celestine in the thing too. So it went around where we're in a day and age where back maybe 40 years ago, 25 years ago, jamborees were full tilt. It was almost played like a game. Now we sort of take that avenue of, if you got a little bit of a ding up, we're not chancing this before week 1, right?
Yeah, it just sure feels that way. Whether that's the right way or the wrong way, I don't know. But it sure feels that that's the way that it's headed now, where if there's even so much of a ding or bruise or whatever it may be, I think that they're going to be erring on the side of caution. And Stan, I really think that the big reason for that change is because of the PowerPoints. Before, you could kind of ease into it. Hey, I got to be ready for week 5. No, now you got to be ready for week 1. And I think that that's part of the reason why coaches are a little more cautious. Was you're right. We saw a lot of key pieces at the jamboree you and I were at that just simply were not available. But when you talk to the coaches after, they say, oh yeah, they'll be available in week 1. So it was just totally a precaution.
So let's throw Terrebonne and E.D. White to the side for a second, right? If anybody wants to go check, you did a nice piece yesterday where you wrote a little bit about what you think the Power 5 are in our area. And it always sort of has started with those two for the last couple of years. And look, that's not throwing light at Vanderbilt or anybody else who has sort of been in that number along the way, CCA. But those two teams, we know what they are,
Sure.
so to speak. What has either surprised you or it's reinforcing your opinion as we move forward going into this, whether it's positive or negative? And the way I mean that is we saw that there's a couple of teams we expect a lot from. CCA is one of those, but they did lose a lot, right? South Lafourche is a team that we think is going to be on the rise this year. Vanderbilt is a team we thought was going to be on the rise, and we still do. Yet after a scrimmage in a jamboree, we went, whoa, we pumping the brakes maybe just a little bit. What's your take?
I agree with what you just said there. I think South Lafourche is going to be a team that has the potential to be stronger this year. Vanderbilt's going to get there. It's taking a little while. I mean, you lose Jalen Coleman. That's a rough one there. The thing that was a little surprising to me from the jamboree that you and I saw H.L. Bourgeois in the spring, and then I saw them again in the jamboree. I don't know what they do during the summer, man, but because they got so much better. And I know the scoreboard didn't look like it. They got beat up by E.D. White, but they made strides. Kadar Mitchell could really play. He's a super athlete, breaking tackles, doing crazy things. The team that I'm most interested in seeing probably in the area is Covenant Christian. As you mentioned, that they did lose a handful, but they got some guys also. They got some guys that transferred in. They got some guys that are coming up that were 9th graders last year, 8th graders last year. Jesse Turner's really excited. He thinks that they've got a really strong team. And 10-0 regular season last year. Looking forward to seeing if they could duplicate that and have a very, very good ride this go around.
I agree. I hear some tremendous things about, and it's mostly, from what I'm understanding, kids who moved in from the Thibodeau area to that school who are really good athletes. And I also agree. I just want to back up what you said about the Kadar Mitchell kid. He may have been, when it was all said and done, the most college-ready player in that jamboree the other day, and I didn't expect it. I really did. Now, there was a point in time in that particular jamboree against E.D. White where I thought, oh, my God, just follow that guy. He gets the ball 99% of the time. But H.L. Bourgeois did a few things. They have a Celestine that plays for them who came in and spot played and did a pretty good job in the second half. But listen, I have to say it about E.D. White. E.D. White played a bunch of young kids in the second half of that game. Yep. So let's run down the schedule. Thursday, it all starts with high school football. H.L. Bourgeois going to be at Ascension Catholic. CCA is going to be at Thomas Jefferson. By the way, that was a game that was originally scheduled for Saturday. That was going to be a Saturday game with Thomas Jefferson. If I'm not mistaken, they play at Hoss Memphis, so they play on the West Bank. And then White Castle is going to be at Central Catholic. Nonetheless, CCA did move. I say CCA moved that game. The powers that be moved that game to a Thursday night. Anything there strike you fancy? Last year, H.L. Bourgeois lost to Ascension Catholic. Of course, that Ascension Catholic team was led by the guy who's going to be taking on South Lafourche this year. So that's just Thursday night. What strikes you fancy?
Okay, so let's start with the CCA Thomas Jefferson. One of the big reasons why CCA wanted to get that game moved, it was scheduled initially for Saturday at 11 a.m. And at a 1A school, you're playing, I don't know how many, 25 kids. Saturday, 11 o'clock, not ideal. So Jesse and his staff there really worked hard to get that game moved. Good on them that they were able to make that happen. Thomas Jefferson is going to present a good test. From what I understand, they run a wing T. If CCA has a question mark, it'll be up front on the defensive side. So good test. Bourgeois and Ascension Catholic actually was one of the games of the year last year. It came down to the last play of the game. Bourgeois had the ball on the 1 yard line, tried to run it in with the quarterback, Malik Miles. He got stuffed. So I'm sure Bourgeois is going to be looking for some revenge there. It should be fun, man. I'm expecting 3 good games there from the ones that just shrouded off.
I agree 100%. By the way, I did want to give a little kudos just for the way he throws the ball. As the young kids say, spin it. But Logan Petrie, the quarterback for H.L. Bourgeois, who is a big kid, he actually is bigger than most of his offensive linemen. He can really spin it. He throws a nice ball. So we'll see how that one turns out. I just think that H.L. Bourgeois is going to have to show some discipline in that game, and we'll see how that goes. So now we take a look at the Friday night schedule. Friday night, we have 2 games, I think, for us here in the Bayou region, which are sort of special. They're games that you should always feel proud about that you're having in your area. They're not in the same districts, but they still play each other. One is South Lafourche is going to be at Thibodaux High School. The other is Central Lafourche is going to be at Vanderbilt Catholic. So if you have the time and you just enjoy high school sports, go out and support those games which feature 2 of our local teams in it. So let's stop it right after that one. I'm sure you're going to be over in Thibodaux at the South Lafourche game. I have not had the opportunity to see Thibodaux except for a 7-on-7 they participated in earlier this year in the summer. Your thoughts on how that game may go and the Vanderbilt game? I'm sure Vanderbilt's going to be a favorite in that one, but I think Central Lafourche is making some strides.
Yeah, so let's start with Thibodaux and South Lafourche. There might be a lot of points scored in that game. Thibodaux's got skill guys all over the field. They've got an offensive system that is conducive to getting those guys in space. And the great unknown with South Lafourche is, look, BJ has been telling us, hey, our defense has improved, and I think it will be. But in the preseason, we haven't seen any 2-way players. So we haven't seen Bo Georges and Sawyer Wells and Terrence Petrie and, Meathead at linebacker. We haven't seen any of that. So how's that going to look? It's, similar to the LSU defense. Well, when you get all the guys in the portal, it looks completely different. Well, South Lafourche in week 1, they're not going in the portal, but they're going to their offense and bringing in some defensive guys, and I think it's going to make a difference. The key to that game, I think, is going to be special teams. I really do. Who's going to break that big return? Who's going to win field position? Because when you got 2 explosive offenses and one has to go 80 yards and the other only has to go 50, that's a huge difference. So I think that who's going to, when they have to punt, who's going to, be able to flip the field I think there's going to be a lot of touchdowns. Who's going to be able to get the ball deep down the field and make the other offense have to drive? I think a lot of those little things are going to matter a lot in that game.
I think, and I'll switch to the other game, Vanderbilt at home. We certainly hope the weather holds out because Vanderbilt does play on natural sod, and we hope that doesn't get to be any kind of sloppy type of game. It's supposed to be a really nice 3 days going into Friday, too, so we hope that happens for everybody in the area. Vanderbilt just sort of has to bounce back a little bit and show a little resiliency from what happened to them. Because anybody who's got to play Lafayette Christian, I hear Lafayette Christian's got it back again. And getting it back for Lafayette Christian is like most teams would just want to be what they were the last couple of years. I think they're very good. And Central Lafourche, again, made some strides. I think they got a little confidence boost when they came up with a big block field goal to not lose their jamboree, so to speak. So we hope that happens. I do want to mention this about South Lafourche related to the jamboree. South Lafourche, and this was against the number ones from Terrebonne, they moved the ball. And this is without Josh Mack. So there was some things I saw, and I know, and you've given Dre Hughes a little bit of light on Bayou Sports, and we know Meathead Dardar is supposed to be a really tough run, and we know Terrence, Petrie is a terrific athlete. But I'm going to tell you what, and correct me if I'm saying his last name wrong. I'm not sure if it's his first or last name, Jarvis.
Landon Jarvis.
That kid's a player.
Yeah, he is.
And that kid would line up next to the quarterback. The other night I kept calling him Robert. I was about to run to the other booth and say, is it Robert or Robert?
It's Robert, yeah.
We called him Robert all night. So we're sorry. We're sorry, Bo. But that being said, we figured he was French, man. It had to be Robert. That being said, I was impressed. I said that multiple times on the telecast that the Jarvis kid was like, he's sort of the X factor, and he can be the X factor. Don't get me wrong. Dre Hughes was terrific, and Terrence Petrie's terrific. And that little quarterback was pretty doggone good himself. He can manage the game and do some things the right way. But I thought offensively they moved the ball. You made a comment probably about 3 months ago saying, South Lafourche's thing is going to be, can they stop other people? And I'm not sure playing against Terrebonne gives you that test.
Yeah.
Because who's going to stop Terrebonne totally, right? So that being said, I think that's probably the big sort of, that's a key to that game, obviously. But two good ones, Thibodeau High School and over at Vanderbilt Catholic, you got two local teams. Then everybody else seems to be spread out all over the place. So let me go through this really quick. We're not going to talk about this one, but this is obviously a game that's going to be a lot of fun for the folks in that area. Berwick is going to be at Morgan City.
So, hey now.
Yeah, the Battle of the Atchafalaya, right? One that is just going to be interesting. I think Terrebonne's the favorite in it, but they're taking on Riverside Academy, who has really come along, even though it's a lower classification school. And that was a really good game last week. Again, Terrebonne's going to have to stop people, and that's where I want to see how that goes down just a little bit. Assumption's going to be at Donaldsonville. Donaldsonville is just so up and down every year that you just don't know what you're going to get. South Terrebonne's going to be at Como, a school that almost shut down this summer, so we're going to see. But I will tell you this about Como High School. There are athletes there. They just can't get it together. They're so busy screaming and yelling and sort of whining about what Southside has that I think if they just got it, because the two schools are right near each other. Let's see what else we have. Homer Christian is going to be at Highland Baptist. That's a huge one for Homer Christian. Allender is going to be at Livingston Collegiate, a team that was in the playoffs last year. Actually came into Thibodeau and took on E.D. White. Livingston is a New Orleans school. I think they're playing at Pan American. And I mentioned that South Lafourche game. And then maybe the heaviest of the heavyweights is Holy Cross is going to be at E.D. White. That ought to be a really good one. Was last year and should be again. When you think of games that we didn't talk about, those first two games, Thibodeau and South Lafourche, Vanderbilt and Central Lafourche, talk about the other ones. What do you think?
I'm curious to see Terrebonne and Riverside Academy. Last year, that was a 48-42 game. No disrespect to Riverside Academy. I'm not expecting that game to be that close this year. Terrebonne looks part of a contender on Friday. They got a big, strong offensive line, big, strong defensive line. I say it like this, okay, I don't expect it to be as close. I'll even go so far as to say this. If Terrebonne wants to be that dome team that they say that they want to be, that game ought not to be close. You're facing a 1A school. Go take care of business. Go break them down. And I think that's a big measuring stick test for Terrebonne against Riverside.
Let me add this to that statement. We were sitting in a press box at the Jamboree, and it just so happened, and I think they're really good friends, Orion Mosley and the Bingham kid for Terrebonne was standing next to each other on the sideline. And I literally just blurted out, that's not fair. I mean, they looked the part. They were actually at the Nichols opener when Nichols played in week 0, as a lot of high school kids went to that game. As a matter of fact, most of the high schools, kudos to a lot of those high school coaches for bringing their kids to that game. And they were sitting with all of the Terrebonne players, and I kept looking at them going, that's like unreal. The size and the maturity look to them. And of course, they're two kids who have, sort of committed to play on the next level. So I agree with you on that one, 100%. I would ask you this because I have thoughts on this. Can E.D. White play with Holy Cross, or can Holy Cross play with E.D. White?
EDY beat him last year, so we'll see how it goes. I think one of the keys to that is going to be can EDY get their young guys ready? Because Kyle Lasang tells us that Holy Cross has a big physical running back that could really go. We saw at times tackling an elusive physical running back was an issue for ED White a little bit in the jamboree. Kadar got loose a couple times. I know it was against some younger kids, but I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I really do. The one thing for ED White, they're going to have to work on, they don't have that ability to make a 45, 50-yard field goal anymore. So they're going to have to score more touchdowns when they get close, because the special teams won't quite be there. But yeah, they sure can. I think that it's going to be a little bit of a taller task this year than last. And they're probably going in slightly as an underdog. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if when we get out of the games on Friday night, if we see that ED White won that game again. And I'll tell you, another thing, too, that's a big factor. Having that game back at home again, ED White is one of the few in the area that they damn near sell out their stadium whenever they take their home field. That's going to be a real home field advantage for them. And I think being at home versus going on the road is going to be huge for them on Friday.
Agreed. Agree or disagree with me on this statement. So correct me if I'm wrong. Two teams, even though it's game one, it's week one of high school football. This is a ridiculous statement, but two teams that have to win in week one, or it's going to be a long year for them. Homer Christian has to beat Highland Baptist. And I think South Terrebonne has to beat Como, or it's just going to be tough the rest of the way.
I would agree with that. If Homer Christian doesn't beat Highland Baptist, knowing what's in their district, it's going to be rough. And then likewise, you mentioned that Como is they're so scattered. If South Terrebonne struggles with them, I agree with that. I'll go so far as to say this: so South Terrebonne has been one of the better teams I've seen in the preseason. Watching the jamboree and then watching them go against Thibodaux, they're going to be much improved. And I'll go on record and say I think they're going to go to Como and take care of business pretty easily.
Yeah, the numbers are a little bit better, and it has a lot of returners. It's a matter of depth for some teams in there and how they sort of handle the depth and what they do with that. Again, all of the games are happening. It's Thursday and Friday. As I mentioned earlier, the weather is supposed to be good. We certainly hope it is. You're going to be at volleyball later today, too. So you have volleyball sort of during the week leading up to the games this weekend in football?
Correct. I'm going to be down the bayou today. John Curtis is coming to town. So you got a annual state contender come and face the Lady Tarpons, who are expected to be a contender this year. So that's going to be our first broadcast of the season. Then we were talking about the two football matchups on Friday. We'll be at both of those. So we got Central Lafourche and Vanderbilt, South Lafourche and Thibodaux.
Very good. Very good. Always good to have you on. We appreciate it. We'll try and bother you on most Mondays just to give us a little insight. And again, for you folks on a daily basis, obviously we put this podcast out on Mondays. We try and feature, just high school sports. I would have loved to spend some time with you on LSU football stuff, but that's not what we do. So I got to backtrack just a little bit. But all that being said, thanks for your insight. Bayou Sports. It's that easy. Go to Bayou Sports on Facebook. It's very accessible, and you could get daily information. You find out things on a daily basis. Not only that, you can also go and see games, as you guys have cameras out there too. Thanks for all you do.
Absolutely, my friend. Look, we're super excited. We invested into some new camera technology. Our games are going to look better, and man, can't wait. Should be fun.
Thank you so much for the time. We'll try and hook up again next Monday.
Can't wait.
It's always nice to have Casey on. Again, you can catch Casey on Bayou Sports. You just go to your local social media. You could find that on Facebook, and I know he's on X, and he's on everything else related to that. I'm an old timer. I'm just starting to get on with all of these things and finding out where to get those different stories from, but Casey does an excellent job with that. You know, we mentioned all of this week 1 stuff. I want to jump back to the Jamboree just a little bit. Terrebonne General was a sponsor of the Terrebonne General Jamboree presented by HTV10. And there are so many people to thank that went into that because it was a very successful night. We had Bubba Ogeron and Sandra LaRose, the superintendent and assistant superintendent of schools here in Terrebonne Parish, who were out there for the coin toss. Thanks to them for being there on behalf of Terrebonne General. Thanks to Dr. Patrick St. Martin. He was there. He is our director of sports medicine here at Terrebonne General. He was there to flip the coin, but to serve a bigger purpose. He was there as a doctor for all of the kids. If they got hurt, he was there on the sideline to assist in any way he can. So a big kudos to those folks. Another big kudos, Tyler Lewis, who is the athletic director at Terrebonne High School, was very accommodating. We obviously had to partner with Terrebonne because they were the host school of the Jamboree, so everything went extremely well there. And just a couple of days before that, Ellender Memorial was the host of the volleyball Jamboree in Terrebonne Parish, and we partnered with Ellender to put that on. It was the Terrebonne General Terrebonne Parish volleyball Jamboree, and Ellender did a terrific job. Considering they don't have a gym, right? They had to host it over at South Terrebonne, but Gus Brown did a really good job. Dustin and I both know Gus well, and he's a good man who does a lot of good things in the parish.
Absolutely.
What's your week like?
Busy.
Well, I know in the
That's what it is.
Well, but you know, as we opened up the show, between you doing some things for Paul Meany and what you got going on here, I can imagine it is. We would encourage all of you out there, if you have the opportunity, go out and support a volleyball game, a swim meet, a cross-country meet, although those start a little bit later. Football this weekend, it all starts on Thursday, as Casey and I were talking about some of the games that are going on in the area. Go out and support the kids in our area. They certainly deserve it. They're doing some good things, and they need your support, quite honestly. We don't have the numbers in the stands like we used to related to high school sports. We need to get it back to that way to show those kids that we are in their support for sure. That's it for us. We hope you have a terrific week. We'll be back next Monday. No holidays next week, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
We'll be back next Monday with a new locker room. Hope you're here with us.